Hi, and welcome to The Curling Show, the podcast that brings you interviews with the sport's top athletes and the people who shape the game. I'm Dean Gemmell, and in this edition, we talk to a 2006 Olympian who's playing with a new front end and maybe a new outlook on the game as well. 2006 Olympic bronze medalist, third on Team Kleibrink, winners of the second leg of the Women's Capital One Grand Slam Series, and currently number 2 on the money list, Amy Nixon. Welcome back to The Curling Show.
Thanks, team. Good to be back.
Hey, well, Amy, it was almost 2 years ago, just a couple of weeks before you headed to Torino when we last talked. Try to describe your life in curling since that time.
Holy smokes. It would be hard to do, but I guess since I last talked to you, lots of emotion, lots of reevaluation, lots of questions for me about whether I was going to keep going for the next 4 years, because it took a lot out of me personally to do the Olympics. Obviously awesome as well, but just I think the immediate year after the Olympics and from the time I talked to you was a lot of self-searching.
It was a grind for you guys. Are you a practicing attorney now? Is that?
Yeah, I'm back practicing law with the city of Calgary and have been doing that only for a few months. So I was called to the bar in November '06. Didn't work for 7 months trying to figure out how being a lawyer and curling as much as we do, which is why my voice is as harsh as it is right now, how that was going to work out. So yeah, I am practicing as a lawyer.
So you did have questions, though, about whether you wanted to go through the whole grind again?
Yep, just I think mostly because from a personal perspective, I went to university for 10 years. I have student loans to pay. My husband is a fantastic guy, Mike Westland, but ultimately we have bills to pay. So just sort of questioning how much longer I was willing to take the risk of playing as much as we do.
And Mike's curling a fair amount with Charlie Thomas, right?
Yeah, he's playing a lot with Charlie, and Charlie and I are buddies through curling camp and stuff like that. So it's a great year for Mike to have a good time with Charlie and JD and Kyle, and I actually really enjoy his team, which is also a good bonus for me, since they love to harass the wife of the team.
You and Shannon have a new front end this year. If you were able to win the right to represent Canada in another Olympic Games, and we've touched on this a bit already, but what advice for your teammates who didn't go through the whole experience last time would you offer?
What advice? I think the biggest piece of advice I would give is which is I think hard to do if you've never been there, but to take a lot of time off for yourself and to say no when people ask you to do things that are kind of overwhelming time-wise. I think that's the hardest thing to do, and I would do a lot of the same things I did in terms of appearances or charity.
You'd do another curling show interview, right?
Yeah. Like I would do a lot of that kind of thing. It's just more taking time out for yourself, just resting, because you don't even realize how overwhelmed you are until way after the fact.
You know, I think one of the things too is it's a much longer event than any other curling championship, right? I mean, it ends up being about 3 weeks, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, it's about 10 days of curling, but in our case, we arrived there for, I don't know what it was, 4 days or something prior to throw rocks, and there's just sort of all the additional extras, which is wicked. I mean, it's incredible, it's awesome, but it's also a bit of draining, and lots of things are going on that people just tell you where to go and when to go. So I would if I would have another opportunity, I would sort of be a bit more strong about, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that right now. That's not what's going to work for me. And I think Brad's team, frankly, did a better job of that than we did.
You had illness and things in Italy. The interesting thing to me about all that was I've been to Italy a couple times, and I love the food and wine there, so I was always wondering what you guys were eating.
Just stuff at the village or nothing exciting. I mean, I didn't eat. A lot of it was pretty bland, and
really?
That may surprise a lot of people. But the food at the rink or the village was fairly bland, lacking spice and excitement for a large portion. So once I started to get sick, I know Shannon has said, but it's true, that she just started eating yogurt and salad at McDonald's.
Which always seems so tragic to me that you go to Italy and be eating at McDonald's. But I know Gushu did that a lot too.
Yeah, and I mean, that's where we ate after we won our bronze medal game. We went to McDonald's and had a beer, which is sort of absurd, but yeah, that was the reality.
That sounds grim, to be honest, real grim, at McDonald's with a beer after the bronze medal.
Yeah, that's where we were, though.
Hey, After the 2006 games, your team sort of moved quickly out of the spotlight. Do you think that was the harsh reality of not winning gold, or do you think your team was always going to be overshadowed by the Brad Gushue, Russ Howard story?
I think it's probably both. We're also a women's team, not a men's team, so that may be a part of it. We're also Olympians that are living in Calgary, and there's a whole ton of Olympians here. We're not very special in Calgary compared to Newfoundland, which is awesome for those guys. So I think there's a number of factors, and I definitely don't begrudge them it. They had a great success there, and they should enjoy it.
You know, you talked about the difficulties sort of, I guess, getting motivated last year, and you had some team roster changes during last season. Well, actually, there were team roster changes during last season in the offseason with other teams that got more attention than your change at lead with Christine Keshen replaced by Chelsea Bell. It didn't get a lot of notice, and I tend to think it might be because people always felt your lineup was sort of a curious mix of personalities and that change might be inevitable. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
I don't know if people thought that, but I definitely would agree that it was.
Well, I did anyway. So.
Yeah, it was an interesting mix of personalities, and when we spoke before we went to the trials as a team, and we decided our strengths was our diversity, and absolutely incredible diversity, and and that all, of course, brings its own challenges. So, I wasn't surprised after the Olympics and then the year that followed that there was some significant changes. And maybe there wasn't a lot of attention on that because it was unexpected. I'm not sure, but I'm not upset that there wasn't a lot of attention. It's easier for me.
Right. Hey, this year your team's really off to a great start. You're number 2 on the money list. You won the second Grand Slam event, the Capital One Grand Slam event, I guess we'll call it now. But there's been so much of the coverage focused on Jennifer Jones and Kelly Scott with plenty about Colleen Jones. Are you happy to sort of slide under the radar right now, or do you think you guys deserve some more attention?
I'm fine with sliding under the radar. I don't think anyone on our team is concerned about what other people think. This is the teams that we play on a regular basis know that we're a constant threat, and a lot of them are too. And we're just out there on a mad points race, and money is great.
Points and money, right?
Yeah.
I guess they go together, though, really. That's the one good thing in curling. Not a lot of money, but the points and money happen at the same time. Hey, Amy, we finished with a run back. I give you a topic, and you give me your thoughts in 1 to 3 words.
All right.
All right, the Kelly Scott-Jennifer Jones rivalry.
I wish they'd just bring it out.
Hey, you and Al Cameron. Did you read Al Cameron and his blog that you can find through thecurlingzone.com?
Yeah,
So let's just make it public?
Yep. I think it would be pretty funny if you heard some of the real stuff there. But anyway. Yeah.
I should invite them both back to back, Neither one has been on the show. But
you should, definitely. Yep.
Back to back, I think, would be good. Balancing the law and curling.
Constant challenge.
The mixed doubles format. You're a former mixed player.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Not interesting right now for me personally, but very interesting and fun to play.
It might be something. One thing I've thought, it might be something for players when they get older. Even though it actually might be a little more athletic type of game where you have to chase your own rock. I'm not sure. I don't know.
It also might be good for some young players that don't have opportunities to be on full teams either. So,
that's a good point. The lack of sweeping is definitely a problem, I think. But
Agreed.
Constantly being described as diminutive.
Fine with me. That's what I am. I'm little.
I think they need some new adjectives for undersized curlers, though. They seem to fall back on that with everyone. And watching versus playing in the Continental Cup.
I'll miss it, but I'll enjoy playing in Edmonton at the same time. So it'll be fine. It'll be good. It'll be a good team.
Why does everybody love playing in that so much?
I think because you get to interact with teams on a fun basis. I mean, we definitely interacted with Kelly Scott's team, for example, in a whole different way, and that was pretty special. We also developed a pretty fun relationship with Bernard's team. I think that's just an opportunity to be around people from Canada in a non-competitive environment. So it's
right, and I guess it's different when you
friendships. That's all.
Right, when you show up and you're not there's a group that you're not actually competing against is unusual for curlers.
That's right, it is. Yep.
Hey, Amy, I give everybody on the show a chance to name their sponsors at the end here. So let me know who's behind your team this year.
Olsen's Curling Supplies, and that is it.
All right, well, good for Olsen's. That's it? Olsen's, that's it?
That's it.
Jeez, you guys are. You see, you're too far under the radar, Amy. This has got to change.
Well, and we have a very, very nice skip that doesn't like to ask for money.
I didn't ask much about Shannon. She's always she seems to me sort of above the fray of teammates and everything else. And most people think she's, probably the best pure shooter on the women's side. What is it like playing with Shannon?
It's mostly easy and fun. She's a good friend of mine. We've played together in mix since '99, and she's pretty laid back most of the time, but she's the most competitive person I've ever played with, so it's a nice mix. Yeah,
I mean, she always seems undisturbed by her players' performance. That's one thing I've always noticed.
She's mostly undisturbed, but I know her probably a bit better than most people.
You played with her long enough that you might catch some of it every once in a while, right?
Every once in a while. She's still human, too, but she's pretty amazing that way, yes.
All right, Amy, listen, I appreciate your time. I know it's valuable right now, so get back to to whatever you're doing today, I guess. Good luck the rest of the season, and maybe we'll talk again sometime.
All right, thanks very much, Dean.
That's Amy Nixon on The Curling Show during a week that was full of good news for the sport. A very successful men's event in Brooks, Alberta, and the announcement from Toronto that Capital One is entering the game in a big way. Nice work, everyone.